I'm born again. Born again to live.
Alright guys, so after we recorded this episode last week, some events happened yesterday I wanted to jump on here and talk about real quick. Many of you who listen to this podcast probably already know, but yesterday morning at 2 a.m. my house caught fire. I was lucky by the grace of God that my smoke detectors worked and that I'm here today because they worked. 30 more minutes and I don't believe I'd be here today if they didn't work. So I just wanted everybody to know that I'm going to talk more about this in the future, but God's grace and provision for us in our lives is so evident. And if the closer we walk with God, the more Satan hates us. And honestly, he knew he couldn't attack me during the day because I'm walking close enough with God during the day. But while I'm sleeping, he thought he could get me, and God still had my back. So I love you and enjoy the rest of the podcast, but I just wanted to tell you I'm okay and that God wins and good beats evil every time. Thank you all and love you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Born Again to Live. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everybody. We're so glad you joined us.
So today we're kind of just going to talk about our busy weekend to start off with. We have a group of people at Big Blue that's called the Core Team, which we get together, we plan all the events, and then we carry out the events for the most part. We have a few other volunteers that are outside of that circle of 8, but for the most part, those 8 people carry on the entire event. So
yeah, and we're open like every Saturday from 4 to 8. So 52 weeks a year we're doing this, and it always amazes me that such a small group of dedicated volunteers make that happen.
Yeah, and we can pull off a lot of last minute miracles.
Yes,
we do a lot with a little bit of time. But so this weekend we got together on Saturday and we do what we call a retreat. It's twice a year, so we plan 6 months at a time of what events are coming up, but not real in depth. Just this is what's going to happen on this date, so let's make it happen. And we try to plan out a schedule anyway, so we're not winging it. And then as a group, we meet twice a month. The first and third Wednesdays of the month we meet, and that's how we plan our events and how we organize everything. So the dedication and time that it takes to be a volunteer at an organization like this is one thing that me and Amy, we have the buffet lifestyle. Like, we talk about what it takes to have that mentality of just piling on and keep rolling. It's kind of the same thing with this group of volunteers. So,
oh my gosh, yeah, it's and what's so cool is how differently gifted every single person at that table is, right? You've got those that have been in ministry, you've got those that are in the public school system, and you're kind of like, I don't know, you're the man about Baker, like everybody, it seems like it. And then we've got builders and electricians and painters and people that know marketing and people that know technological stuff, and we're just this incredible, well-rounded group of individuals. I mean, you couldn't pack more varied talents into a group of 8 people if you tried, I don't think. But yeah, it was a big weekend. We had the retreat. We went right into our Big Blue Saturday night. And then I know you had your dinner and discipleship yesterday, but I know for me, I mentioned this earlier, Saturday night we did this diner thing where we just made breakfast for the kids and they could order their eggs and bacon and, however they wanted their breakfast, right? So that was kind of fun, a little bit different. But, I had that conundrum, Eric, where I'm like, okay, all my clothes from Saturday night smell like bacon and eggs. But like, is that worthy of the dirty clothes? Let's be honest.
I mean, I wear barbecue as a cologne most days. I'm a fan of bacon as a cologne or perfumes.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was time to clean those clothes or just give them another scratch and sniff and wear them again.
And another thing that amazes me with our volunteers is God's provision. Over the past, 16 months probably, we've had a lot of change and a lot of turnover. And we'll lose a volunteer to circumstances or situations that are out of our control. But almost instantly, or even before that, somebody will be able to come on board and fill that spot without voluntarily filling that spot. It's like God knows our need, and he just puts this person in there. We had One of our people we talked about, Chris, he went through a whole year of dealing with his mom's dying last will and all that stuff, getting her estate figured out, fixing her house. I mean, he had just a boatload of stuff go on. And at the same time, God gave us 2 volunteers that were interns at a local camp,
Yeah.
and they filled the void.
Yeah, that was amazing.
We weren't replacing Chris, because you can't replace that person and their gifts, but you can fill that void and be able to cover the hole left by that person.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you have to put that buffet plate all the way down and leave the room. And that's sort of kind of what was going on with him. He just stepped out for a little bit, but he's back and he's doing his thing, and he's a mighty prayer warrior. And Chris, we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone that's on that core team, because, I couldn't do it alone. You couldn't do it alone, Eric. But together it is just amazing what God does with our offerings. And
this past Saturday, one of the ones that fell off of us about a year ago, almost today, our former youth director, Abby, she came back to help volunteer because we had a shortage in volunteers. Her and her brother Noah came back, and Abby led the crossover lesson, and it was amazing to just see her up there again and see these kids just and diving into her every word almost, and just it brought back nostalgia. At the same time, it's just like, God, this season isn't completely over, but you're seasoning it lightly right now. It's all it's just, we get sprinkles of Abby and Noah, but we don't get the full flavor of that, but we still get it. So it's really cool that they're still willing to come back, and they're still there. There was no hard feelings when they left. No. It was just God put them in a different situation for that time.
Yeah. And I remember making that comment as they were leaving, that I was, when I knew that, they were moving on to more full-time careers in schools and things like that. That's why she had to step away from Big Blue. But I was saying right before they left, I love that they are still part of the family. And, we always talk about the relationship and the family that God has designed for us. And it is kind of like real family, right? You don't see them all the time, but you see them just enough to know they're there. They're right there. And it just felt so good. And they had a wonderful message. And I thought about, they told the story about praying for this guy named Paul at a Dairy Queen somewhere in Florida. Did they say what city it was? I can't remember. But yeah, how they were just out in the parking lot praying for this guy. And it'd be so great. Someday in heaven, we're gonna meet Paul. I have a feeling, because Noah and Abby and their whole group, they're praying for this complete stranger, but that's the love of God. That's the love of Jesus. Like, in our own strength, we're selfish and we really don't care about anybody, but God just shows us that everybody is valuable and everybody has a place in his family. And so they were just out there just praying their hearts out for this stranger. So I thought that was an awesome story to share with the kids.
I think I got to share my favorite part of the entire weekend, though, was, so I left the Big Blue core team retreat early to drive my son all the way to Pendleton County High School to watch a basketball game, his last middle school basketball game. The game finished. We start on our way back, and Kipton goes, "We can still make Big Blue, can't we?" And I'm like, seriously? And it's one of those like, yeah, we can. And so we drove. We actually had to do some grocery shopping. I got done grocery shopping, dropped my parents off at their car, and we had like 45 minutes if we get there of Big Blue time. And literally we drove the extra 15 minutes, got there. I walk into this huge applause, ovation of, "Eric's here." They gave me this huge thing. I get a bunch of hugs. But when we say we volunteer somewhere, it's not like we're tortured by our volunteers.
No.
Because I had so much joy just being there for that 45 minutes even. That I'm willing to spend all that time on the road, driving, gas, all that stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is that spending our time and our money and all those things. So I'm going to read a little scripture here for you. It is Proverbs 3:9-10. And it says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with your first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine." So today we're going to talk about something that's, I don't think, talked about very much in the church, and I know that it's not very covered well because there's a lot of people who don't understand it.
Yeah.
Tithing and first fruits.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought up, by the way, gas, because Eric, I got here with the gas light on and I thought, much like the buffet lifestyle, this is just going to be our thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, tithing. Tell our audience what tithing is, sort of what is the literal term that means.
Tithing is giving a tenth of anything. And most people accumulate that as wealth or money, but it's a tenth of anything. It's giving a tenth. And actually, what's funny is this came about, this thought in my brain, and God would not let it out, because my boss, he owns a tableway farm, and he has chickens. Well, he always gives eggs to me for Big Blue. And on Saturday, I went up and I picked up 60 eggs. And I was leaving, and I said, "Hey, thank you. I really appreciate the eggs." And he said, "It's the least I can do. I got plenty. I need to give to places like that." And I was driving down the road, and I'm thinking about tithing, and I'm like, most people tithe with what's left over from their paycheck. And the biblical definition is tithing first. So you get your paycheck, you take your 10% or whatever your amount is, and I'm not saying it's 10%, but whatever your tithe is, you take it off the top, not off the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's why it's called first fruits.
Yep. Yeah. When you, back then, when they made those harvests and stuff, like they would bring their grain offering to the temple. It was always the first of the harvest. And I would imagine to some degree they might have had to adjust that, right? Because especially when it comes to grain, you don't know what you're going to get, right? You don't know what a tenth of it actually looks like, but you're starting out with that Thanksgiving. You're starting out by saying, "God, thank you for giving us this great harvest," and the gratitude's coming right back. So I'd imagine that first fruits, when they would bring them to the temple, were 10% of whatever that initial yield was, right? And then they would keep giving as they got more and more and more. And yeah.
But I don't think I think that in this today, when you go to churches, there's a lot of churches that are failing to financially be able to meet the needs of the church. And I think some of it comes from this. That scripture that I read said, "So that your barns will be full and your vats will be brimming over." That's talking about God filling that void. And I listened to a TikTok preacher, and I'm not going to say he's valid, but he had 9 good points on tithing. And one of them was that when I give my tithe, it creates a spot for God to fill. And I love that thought and it automatically, another one of his thoughts was that if I give off the first fruits like that it shows everything else in my life that God is more important.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not building a temple to money. You're adding to that temple of the Lord, and you're trusting Him. And I've heard sort of similar conversations where if you can't trust God with, 90% of it, because you're kind of sacrificing, you're giving up that 10%. Like, you can't trust God with all of it if you can't trust Him with 90% of it. So it's as much of a spiritual discipline as it is just. It really isn't about money, is it?
It's not about the amount. And we're not just talking about money, because Amy and I talk about time all the time and how valuable it is.
Yes.
And I tithe my time. I've talked about before, when I give my first fruits of the day to God by reading the Bible and praying, that's my first fruits. And God fills my day beyond what I can handle because I give my first fruits of the day to Him. So I want everybody to get this concept that it's not out of excess that we give. It's out of that beginning. We got to give it off the top. We got to give our time. We got to give to charities. I donated, I'm not going to even lie to you, I didn't give any money to my local church this week. But I gave $100 off the top of my paycheck, which is way more than is 10%. But I gave $100 to a great charity.
Yeah.
That's going to go do mission trips for God. And I said, "God, that is my tithe this week."
Yeah. Well, and as a core team, we donated money, since we brought them up earlier, Abby and Noah.
Yeah.
they're getting ready to go on a mission trip to Cambodia. And, it's one of those things sometimes, you guys, like God, he gifts us in different ways, right? You might not have a church or be a minister or even work somewhere at Big Blue. Like you could just be like, you could be in any line of work, whether it's a teacher, a trucker, an accountant, whatever, but you have that money, right? And you have that opportunity to support his work. And it isn't, I don't feel like it's phoning it in to just write a check. That's a big component. And I think for people like missionaries and, Abby and Noah, like they might feel like, oh, you're doing the hard part by writing the check. It's like, no, you're the one going all the way there. And so sometimes I'm like, I will gladly donate because I don't have to do that part. But, God calls us to our own little place. And I'm often grateful that our mission field is right here in Wardensville, West Virginia. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Eric, about, that 10% right off the top. When you do the math on that can be a scary number for some people. But yeah, I wanted to just read to you because I don't think this was in our list, but in Malica, this is where God actually puts you to the test. He says, right after he's telling people to bring their first fruits, he says, test me in this and see if I don't open up heaven itself to you and pour out. Like that's, wow. Right? That's one of his promises.
Yeah. Again, I don't think enough people talk about it. And I don't think enough people know what this is and what faith you have to give off the top.
Yeah.
I was going to go to 2 Chronicles with a scripture here. It's 2 Chronicles 31:5, and it says, as soon as the order went out, the Israelites generously gave the first fruits of their grain, new wines, olive oil, honey, and all that the fields produced. They brought a great amount and a tithe of everything. And again, it's not just money. You can give your time. You can give your anything. I mean, eggs. Like I said, he gave eggs, and it just made me say, wow, that's his tithe. Like, I don't have to give me money in this economy right now. Eggs are like gold.
Yes, right. They are.
And he's giving them to a charity.
Yeah. And those kids, they gobbled them up. Let me tell you.
20-some kids ate 60 eggs.
Oh, my gosh. Well, and it was so great. The kids, as usual, doesn't matter what it's doing outside. They love to be outside. And it's such a billboard for Big Blue as people drive through downtown Warrensville. And every Saturday night, you see kids outside playing. You don't even see first graders outside playing, but we just have a yard full of kids playing basketball and volleyball and throwing a football, throwing a baseball. It's awesome. And like lately we've been doing a lot of campfires, right? We just have a campfire and the kids are just sitting around talking around the campfire. There's no texting. There's no like scrolling on their phone. They're all just sort of being there together. And as someone that doesn't like the cold weather, I'm always amazed at how much those kids were outside, even on a night like last Saturday. But when they walked in the door, the aroma of bacon and sausage and the warmth from the oven, it was awesome. It just, boy, did it feel like home, right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the Leviticus?
Yeah, I have another scripture from Leviticus Amy's going to read here. It all ties together with the tithing and first fruits.
All right, so this is Leviticus 27:30 through 32. A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord. Whoever would redeem any of their tithe must add a fifth of the value to it. Every tithe of the herd and flock, every 10th animal that passes under the shepherd's rod will be holy to the Lord.
So, again, we're not sacrificing animals like they were in the Old Testament. We're not physically giving our first fruits of the calving season or whatever that's going on right now with these farmers out there. But I want that mindset in your head that it's God's. The first fruits are God. Don't have to sacrifice them. I don't want to start seeing burning offerings and all that stuff because Eric said so. But I want you to give it to God.
Yeah.
Ask him what he wants you to do with those first fruits. If there's a needy family in the area and you have calves that are going to sell. DJ's Taylor does all those morning brethrens, and he's always feeding these cows and they go to sell. I guarantee you if DJ got to go to sell and then before he left, somebody's like, man, we're not going to survive if we don't get a cow. I'm sure that DJ would be like, all right, I can give a cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a fruit. That's a tithe. That's a way you can give in this world. And I do it when I grocery shop. I used to have a guy that worked for me on my poultry farm. And every week or two, I would just clean out my freezer of stuff that, it's sitting in the freezer just going bad or getting ready to go bad. And I would just put it in a bag and take it up and give it to him. And he used to complain about pay, but I was giving him bonuses with tithes. Like, it wasn't the first things I got, but I was helping him without being cash, without being money,
Well, and it would seem like the first fruits kind of tie into that fruit of the Spirit. Like, really what you're seeing is this generosity muscle being worked. And, when you do have the fruits of the Spirit, peace, joy, goodness, faithfulness, like generosity is just a natural byproduct of that feeling that you are loved, that you are protected, that God is right there for you. And so by tithing, and that is a discipline, right? That's definitely a discipline. It's not this, if you don't make a point of doing it the first of the month or when you get paid or whatever, you're going to kind of, I can see where it slips your mind. So, so that tithing is certainly a discipline, but it is this outpouring of generosity that later comes. And then that is just a spiritual gift that everyone around you benefits from, right? Like, it's just so great to be able to give a cow or give some money to somebody that just needs it or support someone in their mission. And I heard a pastor say one time, Eric, that like when you hold on so tightly, like if you think of your fist just holding on to that $20 bill because you're just afraid to let it go. Well, that strong, wadded up fist, there's no room to let anything else in. But when you open up that fist and let that money leave, now you have an open hand.
Yeah.
And good things come into an open hand, ready to receive blessing.
So as we get to the end of this episode, I told you there was a TikTok preacher, and I'm actually going to play this. I hope it plays over top of this speaker. But I want you to hear what the 9 things this guy says, because I think it's very profound to hear on his version of tithing. So let's see how this works.
Number 1, it provides for God's house. Number 2, it tells God I trust Him. Number 3, it creates margin in my life for God to fill. Number 4, it reminds me that I am not my source. Number 5, it connects my money to a kingdom purpose. Number 6, it gives my job eternal significance. Number 7, it transforms my money into a seed. Number 8, it breaks greed and self-reliance off of my heart. And number 9, it lets everything else in my life know that God is first.
That's it. Yeah, that hit hard when I heard that the first time. But as I said, we're up against our time, and as we tithe our time, I don't want you to give too much of your time to a kingdom mindset right now today. But just a thought for everybody out there. You may not attend a church and be able to put that in the offering plate. Look at your first fruits. Look at your tithe. Dig into your heart, talk to God, and find out where you're not giving, or if you are giving or not. Just dig into it and figure out exactly where or how you can get more of your fruits.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you tomorrow.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks again for joining us today. We want to make you a part of the conversation. So please visit our Facebook page at Born Again to Live the podcast and leave a note or a comment, questions, prayer requests. We just want to hear from you. And while you're at it, please like, subscribe, and share so that others can find out about our podcast. Thank you.